But I understand that according to the history researched, it's a sinister spirit behind the origin of Islam. Now, your intentions and their intentions are two separate things. So you brothers and sisters who are Muslims, don't think I'm trying to attack you or belittle you or come down on you. Why? Because that's your path. Why? Because some of us didn't have a choice. Some of us became Muslims. Why? Because our parents were Muslims. It becomes, if I'm born a Christian or raised a Christian, it becomes a rebellion against the white slave masters' religion that have enslaved us. That's the black, now I know, that's the black hook and bait they use in the community. The Bible's tampered with. The Bible was used to enslave you black people. How can you follow the Bible when it's a white man's book? Lawyer, how many times have you heard that?
Millions.
And white people don't tell us this. Arab people don't tell us this. Our own people in that neighborhood say, I don't deal with the Bible because it's a white man's book. Are you in for a surprise today? You choose whatever you would like to follow. It's your life. Right? But we're going to give you the tools today in the history to weigh what's right, so that no one is without excuse, that no one can say that we haven't reached out and gave history concerning its origin. And on top of that, you're not going to be able to claim you didn't hear the truth on the day of judgment. No excuses. You're going to get everything today. I'm tired of the stuff of us just ignoring things and just weighing things between black and white. Oh, well, the white man did it. That's why I'm a Muslim. Well, I digress. An Israelite message to Muslims, Israelites' origin, slavery and politics, what Muslims don't want Bible believers to know. And I'm speaking of learned Muslims. Okay? Islam, the origin. I mentioned earlier, let's start at the origin, that every Muslim on earth is a convert. Every Muslim, starting with the Prophet Muhammad. There was a time in this earth not too long ago. Okay, there was a time in which Islam didn't exist under the title or name Islam. Okay, how do we know this? Well, you have Muhammad born around 539 BC, around that area, right? He was born in the 6th century AD. You're talking about almost 600 years after Christ. So that begs a question for all that's out there. What were the Middle Easterns following before Muhammad was born? If there wasn't any Islam. Now, if Islam wasn't a religion at that time, that means even what we follow in the Bible when it comes to Christ and the disciples' doctrine, that predates what we call Islam today. Now, that's just a historical fact. A lot of our people don't even know that. Okay, but sometimes we are bamboozled or detracted by hearing people say, well, Muhammad was a prophet. Jesus was a prophet. Isaiah was a prophet. Moses was a prophet. See, that's the detraction. That's the slick way of adding Muhammad, right, into the line of prophets and having the unlearned in our communities believe that they were all around the same time, period. Right? when really Islam is one of the newest religions on earth. AD. 600 years 600 years after Christ almost. And at this time, what we call the Bible, the Torah and the Tanakh was already in place. The New Testament, before Muhammad was born, was already in place.
That's right.
The gospel was being taught all throughout the earth, outside of the Western world. Well before Muhammad was born. Acts the 2nd chapter, when the Holy Spirit came down on the disciples, okay, where you had Jews, devout men out of all nations under heaven, speaking different languages. Why? We all would come up to Jerusalem once a year for the Feast of Unleavened Bread and the Passover. So at this period, the gospel was taught in Acts 2nd chapter. And this is 1st century, folks. Okay, almost 600 years before Muhammad was born. Where you had devout men out of every nation teaching the true gospel of Christ before there was any such man as Muhammad. So why did we need a new prophet? Elder Lawyer, read what you have there.
Yes,
first.
sir. This is the book of Acts, the 2nd chapter.
Come on.
And I'm going to get straight to the point. Verse number 5. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven.
And I'm reading out of the Bible. Why? Because the Bible predates Muhammad, and it predates who? You got it. Or what? The Quran. And we're going to go into the Quran a little later too. But right now, we're going to deal with the origin of Islam to show you what was intact concerning our people before there was any such thing as a Muslim. Read.
Verse 6. Now when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language.
Come on.
Jumping down to verse number 8. And now we hear every man in our own tongue wherein we were born, Parthians and Medes, Elamites, and dwellers in Mesopotamia, and in Judea and Cappadocia, and Pontus and Asia, Phrygia, Pamphylia, and Egypt, and in parts of Libya, about Cyrene. And if I could mention, a lot of these areas that we're reading are areas that eventually Islam would be spread.
Exactly, which means if the gospel wasn't taught first to these respective areas, including Arabia, and you're going to go there in a moment, Muhammad would have never received any revelation or understanding of his Abrahamic roots. It was the gospel that we were teaching that led Muhammad. Okay, it led Muhammad on paths and roads that would actually have us come to an impasse. And when he seen us teaching, he began to learn based on what I'm reading right here. Hundreds of years later, Muhammad ran into us teaching the truth, folks. So he's a convert. See? He's a convert. That means he decided, well, what you're saying as Jews are interesting. See? Now, I'm not making this up. This is history that any of you can research. I'm going to bring some history out in a couple of moments. He said, this is interesting. The Arabs we have here in Saudi Arabia, in the Middle East, we're heathens. There's no law. There's no organization amongst us. We're worshiping one God for each day of the year. Polytheism. We're worshiping all these different gods. Maybe if we unite under one God, we can become a powerful a powerful people, recognized and become a political force to be reckoned with. He was going to use a new religion compiled from the Jews' religion or the Israelites' religion into what they were dealing with, which is Persian mythology, to create a new religion called Islam to unite the Arab world. So that was the original objective politically. It had nothing to do with it becoming a way of life for slaves.